Item number, sperma Broodwell. Threat level, Abaddon. Special containment procedures. All containment methods used redacted by the Order of 12, 1950, 625. Description. This file appeared seemingly from nowhere on January 21st, 1953, within a locked archival vault at site. It contained the first two accounts transcribed below, two of the most chilling reports ever catalogued by the Order, the implications of which represent a horror of the highest echelon. Subsequent sections have continued to manifest without authorization, nor have any recorded edits by O12 personnel been confirmed. Sources unknown at this time. O12, 1983, 03, 23. The Broodwell, 0001. Camille Vassaux. Origin. Setting, 1945, Nevada. Initial interview. All I ever wanted was to go to school, I began, nervously lighting a Lucky Strike. Papa wanted me on the farm. The group exchanged curious but concerned glances. Why? The man in the center asked. I took a long drag from my cigarette and gazed out the exterior office window. To him, the entire family was failing if we weren't together. If the smell of dirt wasn't in the air, and taste of good old crop dust bereft of our mouths. I hated it. I hated every second of it. I took another big pull from my Lucky, stopping only to ash the mountain forming. I looked back into the room, looked back at the faces of the now bewildered men. It wasn't being a tomboy I didn't like. Surprisingly, not only was Papa okay with that aspect of my personality, he seemed to actively encourage it. He encouraged it when other fathers would dissuade their daughters of doing the same. You see, in his eyes, that camouflage would protect me like an atheistic baptism. July 6th, 1932. 2 months and 13 days until your 13th birthday, sister. I looked up from the stack of cut wood. My eyes lost their focus and floated into the grain. I wish they could stay there forever, fixed on the tiny things. John was calling for me, running towards a pile of stacked logs, but still just out of sight, around the corner. Ducking out of view, I quickly donned a sneaky, sly grin. As my little brother rushed in, his usual lack of situational awareness and overflowing excitement more than obvious, I jumped out. Arms dangled high above my head like an enraged grizzly. Immediately, my little brother hit the barn floor hard, causing him to let out a pathetic squeak, and fear took the rest from him. A stinky, sticky puddle seeping into the dirt. When the poor little 6-year-old realized what I had done, he quickly replaced his fear with righteous, vitriolic anger. Hey, you big stinker! I'm just excited for you. You don't have to be so mean all the time, Cammy. His eyes started to well up, and at that I felt bad. Oh, come here, you big baby. I rolled my eyes and pulled him into a bear hug, clenching him tightly and planting a big, exaggerated kiss on his sweaty forehead. He pulled away immediately, disgusted, of course, no longer about to cry. If I didn't mess with you on a daily basis, how could you be sure it was me, Johnny? I love you, John. I made a kissy-kissy sound with my lips and tried to pull him in again, this time for a noogie, but he was prepared. He dodged my swipe and turned around, this time looking serious. We have to talk about them, Cammy. We have to talk about the nightmares. My arms fell from the outreach position where I had just lifted them to hug my little brother. Stunned into near silence, I took a minute to respond, utterly confused. Nightmares? What nightmares, Johnny? I kept my tone light, deeply scared, but not wanting to show it. I've been sleeping just fine at night, buddy. His face, which had quickly turned serious, not only remained serious, it hardened, quite uncharacteristically for my kid brother. It held a look of accepted fear, emanating an energy so wise it felt monumentally ancient. I hear you scream at night, Cammy. I hear the words you choke out. You're scared of her. She says you will have its babies for eternity. The white-eyed lady. She says she's you, Cammy. September 19, 1945. I turned 26 today. It was a bleak day. The bombs fell last month. They say the war is over. They say the work we're doing now at this new site, Paradise Ranch, will make sure it never happens again. I want to believe them. If history has taught me anything, it's that hope is difficult. John is coming home. I was afraid the war would swallow him whole. It didn't, but he sure isn't the same anymore. His letters haunted me when I read them, and they haunt me still. His account of what happened to him on Iwo Jima, while short, was terrifying. I still don't talk about the nightmares. January 17, 1946. It's been about 10 months since I've arrived in Nevada. Site officials have remained extremely quiet about the nature of our work here, the scope of which I have still yet to fully comprehend or extrapolate the sheer scale of. My doctorate in bacteriology, earned at the age of 24, the principal reason for my hiring, as I was told, has been both my most supreme armor and my greatest impediment. My voice is rarely heeded, my dispositions deemed problematic in their audacity. I deeply worry about the implications of this newfangled, poorly implemented technology of cryopreservation. My days are needlessly absorbed by the study of it, my time strictly ensconced to ensure its birth. I have no earthly idea what the U.S. government is seeking in this technology. My predictions do nothing but provide ceaseless anxiety. I have stopped speculating the extent of this poisonous study and have begun to accept with a deeply grim stolidity that I am no longer my own. July 6, 1947. Something fell from the sky today. No one is providing clarity on the situation. Everyone is lying. To each other. To me. This flavor of chaos feels different. They've sequestered me to my quarters. July 8, 1947. It's been 2 days. I've done nothing but read. The tones of H.P. Lovecraft's stories across his many heady tomes used to fill me with the grandest feelings of exhilaration and excitement. I feel now they were prophecy, written by a man, ripped and torn apart by the ether that which houses all benevolences and evils known to mankind. I hear them coming. Hopefully they let me out. They're at the door now. It's cold. The abrupt, loud, cold creaking of the door to Camille's quarters opening jarred her more than it should have. "What's going on, Willie?" Camille asked, attempting to maintain a look of unbothered comfortability but failing. Willie expressed no response, no words, just wordlessly moved towards her. A look of melancholic, stoic resolve splayed determinedly across his deeply lined, weathered face. She didn't have time to even make a sound. The hidden laboratory. Camille opened her eyes. She was sitting at the edge of a massive room with an impressively high ceiling, in a room she didn't know existed, on one of the bland, uncomfortable laboratory chairs she was used to. What she saw in the center of the room, the explicit horror inflicted upon her retinas, could only produce the most deafening of screams and reaction. The usual, perfectly crisp corners of Willie's Air Force uniform, now bizarrely smooth, quickly came into view and filled her vision, the general backhanding her to quiet the ungodly sounds escaping her strained, overtly terrified spirit. "Shut your damn trap, Basso!" Willie's biting words scared her enough to make her briefly forget why she had let out that blood-curdling scream. He never spoke to people like this, especially women. He was kinder to his men than the average soldier, let alone the average military general. Then he stepped away, and the monster came back into view. Her horror was contained this time. It grew much greater than before. The entity stood at least 12 feet tall. A mass of orifices spread across its immense form, pulsating in odd synchronizations that seemingly held no order. Yet the longer she observed the perceived chaos, the more she realized she was witnessing functions of the highest levels of macabre efficiency and purpose. The workers of the ranch, presumably, had somehow restrained the beast with ghostly ties, the material of which Camille had no hope of ascertaining its origins. Just when she thought the situation could not get any worse or any more cosmically bizarre, the entity turned toward her, looking with what she assumed to be eyes, scanning her entire physical manifestation with a disturbing gaze that screamed calculating. Then it spoke. "You fools have brought me my perfect vessel." The general's face drained of blood in an instant, white as paper. "You said you would share your power with us if we let the doctor preserve you." The general's words hung in the air like the desperate confession they were. The entity didn't laugh, if that was even physically possible for it to do. A devious man would have. This was no man. The entity didn't need to address the general. It simply turned its full attention to Camille. Every orifice on its body dilated at once, a wet, synchronized inhale that pulled the air from her lungs. The ghostly ties melted away. She felt her chest cave inward and her lungs begin to deflate, like the room itself was stealing her breath. The general took a frenzied step back. His mouth opened, closed. No sound. Scared like a child. The entity drifted closer. Not walked, drifted. Its lower mass left a trail of clear, viscous fluid that steamed on the concrete. She tried to stand up, to flee from the cheap, military-grade, bland chair. Her legs refused to respond. The beast stopped inches from Camille, close enough that she could see inside the largest orifice at its center, a beating, translucent sac filled with thousands of tiny, floating lights. Seeds. It spoke again, directly into her mind this time. No vibration, no sound, just certainty. "Oh, my sweet babe, lost in the woods of the universe. Hasn't it always been obvious, my child? God made you this way so the devil could have somewhere to hide." She felt it then. Not pain. Recognition. Like hearing a fact you always knew to be true, but never wanting to accept it until proven inevitable. The sac in its chest opened. A single, glowing tendril extended. Thin, hot, patient, disgustingly slimy, and paradoxically cold. It touched her sternum. The last thing Camille remembered as herself was the cold floor rushing up to meet her. The sound of the general screaming as the lights went out. Looking down at her body as she laid on the ground, wanting death, instead realizing she had, impossibly, gained 12 fingers. Then, nothing. For a very long time. The Broodwell, 0002, John, Korea, 1950 to 1953. Note: this section manifested as a bound collection of unsent letters dated 1950 to 1953, claimed to be recovered from a World War II and Korean War veterans' estate in 1975. cross-referenced with BR.sperma anomalies via eyewitness reports of white-eyed apparitions in declassified X-Corps logs. Redactions applied for attempted containment. The following letters persist in their resistance to destruction. Letter 0, February 12, 1950, Camp Pendleton, California. Dear Cammy, I re-up today. Signed the papers at Pendleton. The recruiters looked at me like I'd lost my damn mind. A soldier with an honorable medical discharge from EWO, a leg that still aches on rainy days, and here he is, asking to come back. They ran me through every test they had. Psych evals, physicals, the works. Every doc I saw had basically the same reaction. They'd shake their head and say something like, "You survived the war to end all wars and got out clean. Why throw that away, son?" Superiors from 45 remembered me. The soldier who fought like a man possessed after Pearl, the one whose sister vanished. They knew I enlisted in December of 41 to run from the pain of losing you. Pretty sure they were all stunned that in the end of that whole mess, I'd made it home at all. Seemed like the whole Corps had heard about the story. That crazy farm kid, saved by that one jarhead with the emotionally disturbed mother under major delusions of grandeur about the god of a man her son would be. It's not like Arthur babbled about her to everyone. He really only ever talked to me at EWO. Everyone seemed to just know. The leadership, well, the ones that survived that hellfire tar pit, wanted me to stay out, to go home to Mama and Papa back at the farm. Let them have at least one kid left. But I insisted. I was ready to go again, sister. I passed every eval. Mental stability? Check. Competence? Are you kidding me? After all that, they relented, reluctant as all hell. I guess the generals told them the Corps needs men who know what fire feels like. My old protectors didn't have much choice. Truth is, Cammy, I'm still running from the pain of losing you. I've accepted the reality that I will most likely never see your face again. I'm still running, yeah, I'm running in a different direction now. Korea's heating up. North's pushing south, and there are whispers of bigger trouble. Everyone is worried about the Reds. I can't sit at home pretending you're coming back when my body is still capable of fighting. The official story of the ranch they continue to push is, "It was a weather balloon." Everyone nods, agrees, then they move on. I nod in public too, to remain free of suspicion, but at night, alone with my thoughts, I can't help but ruminate. I know it was her, the white-eyed lady. She took you, Cammy. I know she did. My nightmares haven't relented since 32. Now that war's coming again, maybe it'll bring me answers, or maybe even peace. At a minimum, I just hope it drowns out the goddamn voices. The whispers in my ears as I drift off to sleep and as I awake in the dawn. They started in EWO. I wrote you about them in 45. They seem to be getting fiercer. When they started, it's like they were looking out for me, if that makes sense. Their tones have shifted from motherly, almost comforting, to damn near fiendish. I write these letters because you're gone, but the words keep you here. I'll never send them. It's not like they reach you. If anyone were to ever read them, they'd probably send for the men in white coats. I just carry them with me, in my book, like a prayer. Some may call it unhealthy, but most days it feels to be the one thing keeping me sane. I carry the book like I carry the ache in my leg and the ache in my chest. The weight is heavy, but I wear these as proof of ability and vestiges of fate, rather than wounds of war or reminders of loss. They keep me strong. If you're out there, Cammy, fight her. Fight her. I'm coming back alive. For Mama and Papa. For you. You should come home too, sister. Forever fighting. Still running. Your big baby brother, John. Letter 1, August 7, 1950, Pusan Perimeter, South Korea. Cammy, it's been 3 years since you vanished from that godforsaken, secret facility at good old Uncle Sam's. Paradise Ranch, they call it. I know you weren't supposed to tell me, but you did in that last letter. Working on something big for the government at the ranch, Johnny. Post-war stuff. Cryo... something. Don't worry about me or the country, okay? My superiors tell me this new technology is supposed to make us indomitable. Then poof. Gone like a ghost. That last line scared me, and it still does. Indomitable? The atom bombs we dropped on the Japs were supposed to make us indomitable. I don't want to know what's more indomitable than that. And Cammy, the official story? Weather balloon? My ass. The conspiracy theorists keep belling about aliens. Everyone calls them insane, but in my gut, I know they're not far off. It's her, the white-eyed lady from our nightmares. The one you screamed about as a kid, the one who said she'd make you have its babies for eternity. I still see it in my dreams. That thing can't possibly be human. I know it sounds completely nuts, but after Ewo, completely nuts is all I've got left. I'm back in it now. Volunteered for this mess in Korea. Landed in Pusan last week with the 1st Marine Division. It's hot as hell here. Bugs everywhere, and the North Koreans are still hammering us like a tidal wave. We pushed them back every time. The air here feels like trying to breathe in hot water. Guess who I ran into? Arthur. Yeah, the sad sack from Iwo who pulled me out of that sulfur pit when a Jap mortar shredded our squad. He patched up my leg, muttering about his mama's truths the whole time. I would have bled out right there if not for him. He's the only one that ever entertained my theories about your disappearance. Sad bastard saved my life. He's older now. He's far quieter. His 31st birthday is coming up. Feels too weird for coincidence that it's the same as yours. He looks much older than 31. We shook hands like old ghosts, both surprised the other was alive. Johnny Vasso! He yelled out dramatically as he walked up to me. Still wearing that same funeral smile of his. Faded for just a moment as he let out a soft, sad chuckle. Figured the bottle would have taken you by now. We're in the same rifle company here. 5th Marines, 1st Division. Sort of feels like fate, whatever's left of it. Feels safer with him here. Or at least as safe as war ever can be. I write these letters to you because, well, you're gone, but maybe the words will somehow make their way to you. Grief is a funny thing. It's made me invent all sorts of concessions. Arthur says emotion is nothing but a hindrance to logic and to survival itself. Perhaps he's right. I miss you, sis. If the white-eyed lady has you, like my nightmares have caused me to fear, fight her. You're tougher than any soldier I know. Your big baby brother, John. Letter 2, September 20, 1950, after Incheon landing. Cammy, we hit Incheon. So many dead. MacArthur's big gamble. Amphibious assault. Ladders up seawalls under fire. Lost a few good men in the surf, but we took the beach. We pushed inland, hard. We'll capture Seoul by the end of the month if we're lucky. Arthur's the same stoic bastard. During the landing, a shell burst nearby him. He just kept moving, like a man who didn't believe death could take him. He bandaged a kid's arm while bullets zipped by him, not showing fear for even a millisecond. Logic over fear, he kept muttering, thinking no one would hurt him. Arthur reminds me of you, to be honest. He's always encouraging the camouflage and pretending fear doesn't exist. He talks about his mama sometimes, about how she raised him to be a change agent. Heavy stuff, even for a foxhole. The man doesn't know peace. Nightmares are unrelenting. Last night, in the ruins outside Seoul, I swear I saw her, the white-eyed lady, standing in the shadows, wearing a dress as white as bone, eyes like voids. No pupils, no life, just watching. I blinked. She was gone. I always wake up from these dark dreams the same, sweating profusely, heart pounding. Tonight is no different. My thoughts are running rampant. Is she following me? She take you to punish us? For what? The farm? Papa's rules? Was she angry at you refusing to be silent, instead choosing to be a disruptive threat to the established man-made order, as you used to call it? Or is our upbringing precisely why she took you? I don't know why that thought comes to mind. I don't know why she'd have a reason to punish us, or why she'd want you in the first place. I don't know. Just a feeling. A demented one. Arthur had a rough night, too. He said he dreamed of a woman with white eyes whispering about legacy. That terrified me. How does he connect to this? Why would he be having dreams of the very thing that's haunted you and me our entire lives? Arthur very quickly shook it off and changed the subject, but I saw the fear in his eyes. We're pushing north now, toward the 38th. His seeing her in his dreams has convinced me I'm not going insane. If she is real, maybe she'll show me where you are. I love you, big sister. Fight. Please. Please fight. John. Camille. Inside, the instinct is immediate. The cold calls to the wide-eyed lady, to the reservoir. Fading and reappearing in the white of the snow, she watches the sparks of life flash, and a yearning to harvest begins to grow inside of the internally divided proto-amalgam. Men, their legacies spilling into snow as blood. Such a shame as they should be with us. Cease your resistance, child, and let me harvest the remainder of these souls. Camille feels herself screaming in defiance, yet hears no sound form. The lady, however, does seem to hear it. Camille feels their combined form wince as if in pain. She speaks to the lady, continuing her disobedience, and this time she hears her voice. No, Johnny's there. My baby brother. I feel him near. I feel the depth of his sorrow, through his letters as he writes them, never to be sent, whispering prayers to himself as if he must be absolved from my fate. He falsely believes he is the cause of my doom. I see Arthur in his melancholic, stoic splendor, and I see the faces of the other men. Camille feels an agony rip into her, an unfathomable sensation unlike any other pain she has ever experienced. Yet she holds fast, reciprocating with an equally excruciating lash. Not him. Turn away, now. Relenting, surprisingly, their body turns away. The lady does not reply with words. However, Camille feels an anger build silently like a seething demon, and knows the dam she has just constructed, like all the rules she always detested, is destined to break. She holds fast, resisting complete amalgamation. For now. Letter 3, November 25, 1950. You damn knee, Chosen Reservoir. Cammy. We push deep into the mountains now. X-Corps is pushing north to the Yalu River to end this war quick, get us home for Christmas. But it's turning cold, and hell freezes over cold. Temps are dropping to well under 30 below zero. The wind is moving in gusts sharper than my K-bar. We're strung out along the reservoir, trying to stay warm. You damn knee's our spot. High ground, but dangerously exposed. Arthur says it's a trap waiting to happen. Logic says consolidate, he grumbles. Orders are orders. I saw her again last night, the white-eyed lady, standing on the frozen ridge, unmoving as we humped gear up the road. She wore the same unnaturally bright, bone-white dress, which, bizarrely, didn't flutter in the wind. Her eyes were fixed upon the regiment like she was waiting for us. Arthur spotted her too. He froze mid-step, face pale. "That's the woman from my dreams," he whispered. "The one who sits by my bed, watches me sleep." We didn't talk about it after. The lady had vanished from our vision as quickly as she had entered it. Marines don't really spook easy, but after Ewo, Arthur and I know ghosts. The cold's biting hard. Frostbite's already claiming toes. Rations frozen solid. But Arthur, that sad bastard is holding us together. He's patching blisters, sharing his mama's rants about humanity's cycles. "We are poison to the soil," he says, "but we endure. We evolve." Makes me think of you, sis. You endured Papa's farm, got that doctorate. You were always a force to be reckoned with when we were kids. Sure made the job of raising you and me that much more interesting for Mama, especially Papa. He'd get mad at you when we trashed the barn, roughhousing and raising hell. Come into the aftermath of our terrors, fuming mad, and you'd remind him you were destined to be different. "I'm an anomaly, Papa, a glitch in the family machine." Even then, you were throwing big words at everybody. Lord knows where you got them. I knew as an adult you became that anomaly. But where are you now? If the white-eyed lady took you at that ranch, was it aliens, like the crazies say? Is she an alien? Or something worse? Writing this by lantern in a foxhole. If I don't make it, just know I love you. John. Camille. They march into my banquet. The reservoir, filled with frozen veins, pulsing with dying lights. Their warmth, their seeds of legacy ripe for the taking. No need to pour such valued blood into the snow. They must be... Camille feels a white-hot anger flash between their eyes. Stop. That's my brother down there, freezing with his friend, Arthur, the one who kept him from bleeding out on Iwo Jima. Camille twists, lashes internally, forcing their eyes away. The lady roils, almost breaking form, yet keeps their manifestations intertwined. Camille, knowing she will not break the lady's hold on her, instead redirects resistance to the dam. Holding fast, she uses this time to hold back the beast itself. She knows that the ongoing death below, in pure human conflict, ultimately is better than the internal conflagration of being cannon fodder to a master that yearns to steal the souls of the world. Better they die free. Letter 4, November 28, 1950. Udamne under siege. Cammy. Hell broke loose last night. Chinese, waves of them, bugles blaring in the dark. They hit us hard. Human waves crashing our lines, grenades and burp guns spraying lead everywhere. We held the ridge, but good God, the cost. Lost half our platoon in the first hour. Bullets ricocheting off frozen ground. Men screaming as bayonets found them. Arthur took a hit, shrapnel on the leg. I dragged him to cover, bandaged it quick. "Your turn to save me," he joked, that quiet smile through the pain. Reminded me of Ewo, him pulling me from the ash. Marines are brothers, but we are blood. But the white-eyed lady, she was there, in the blizzard, standing amidst the bodies, unblinking, watching as our brothers fell. One kid, Ramirez, got shot and freezing. His eyes glazed, a weird smile as he whispered, "More," like in a dream. She reached out, not touching, but waiting. He went still, peaceful almost. Haunts me. Is that what she did to you? Watched you fade? We're vastly outnumbered. We've gotten into firefights with at least 2 different Chinese divisions, and Smith says there's much more than 2 out there. 30,000 of us, 90,000 or more of them. Temp at -30. Weapons jamming from ice, congealed oil. Frostbites turning feet and fingers black. Arthur's holding, but his eyes, they're distant. We poison the soil, he ceaselessly reminds us. I think of you as I fight to stay alive here, sis. You fight her. She's here. Maybe you're close. John. Camille. The feast begins. Sparks extinguish in the white. Legacies flushed into cold. Delicious. No! Johnny's fighting, dragging Arthur through this hell. Camille lashes internally, ripping and tearing all she can feel. The shrieks from the lady are painful to the both of them. Run, Johnny. Letter 5, December 2nd, 1950. Hagruri breakout attempt. Cammy. 4 days of this frozen nightmare. Chinese soldiers are everywhere. Nights of endless attacks. Days of airstrikes pounding them. We're low on ammo. Morphine is gone. I saw a man lose his hand to frostbite. He just stared into the nothing, smiling as if released. Arthur's wound is infected bad. His fever is high. Logic says we're done, Johnny boy, he said last night. But that smile, it was almost peaceful. Like a smile one wears at a funeral for a relative who deserved the rest of finality. We talked about Iwo, how he saved me, how his mama taught him kindness and pain. You promised me, John. Promised me. Refuse to add more hurt, he whispered. Makes me cry writing it. The white-eyed lady haunts my dreams. Last night, in my post-nightmare delirium, I saw her at the foxhole edge. Eyes a white void, softly and sweetly whispering to the sleeping Marines. Give freely. Arthur awoke screaming the same horrors. She will drain all of us. She will drain our children and our children's children. Then he just went back to sleep. Those 15 words, Cammy. I'll never forget them. Ramirez's body is limp and lifeless, still wearing that macabre smile, lying lifeless in the snow. Others, too, drained, peculiarly peaceful, like they offered something in the end, purchasing their salvation. We're breaking out tomorrow. Assault in a different direction, Smith calls it. Paths through hell. If we make it, it's a miracle. If not, find me, sis. The white-eyed lady. You make her let you go. Your big baby brother, John. Camille. They weaken. The cold collects them for me. Their legacies are pooling in the reservoir. Let go, vessel. I will never stop fighting you. Johnny's dragging Arthur south. This is my blood, my legacy. You can't have him. Camille surges. She inhales deeply and twists wide. The blizzard drains the waves and paths clear in the white. Their 22 fingers tremble. The lady lets out an unfathomable shriek that can only be described as not of this world. The grip Camille has maintained on the lady fades, as does she. But John and Arthur live. For you, Johnny. Letter 6, December 10, 1950. En route to Hungnam. Cammy. We did it. We broke out. Miracle, leadership says. Fought south from Udamnee to Hagaroo-Ree, then the pass, Hellfire Valley. Chinese on every ridge, but the wind, it turned. Howled like a beast, swallowing their shouts. Chinese slumped in the snow, smiling as if dreaming. Our path cleared, almost unnaturally. I saved Arthur. pulled him from a collapsed foxhole as mortars rained. His leg's bad, but he's alive. Debt repaid, I told him, jokingly. He just nodded, that soft smile. His eyes still haunted. We left so many behind, bodies frozen, grinning in the cold. The white-eyed lady watched from the ridges, unblinking, her bone-white dress pristine amongst the blood. She didn't act, but she waited. For what? Casualties are hell. Whole division is torn. Thousands wounded, frozen, and dead. Frostbite took more than bullets did. Arthur mutters about poison on the soil. Me, I see her in every shadow. She took you. Why spare us? Evacuating to Hungnam soon. War ain't over, but seeing that look in Arthur's eyes, his screams at night, this deployment broke something in me, Cammy. God, I miss you. I just want a hug from my big sister right now. John. Camille. The miracle. My power turned against me. You will fade, my sweet girl. Eternal isolation awaits your soul. Camille chuckles in defiance, but her laughter is tinged with a deep sadness. Worth it. Johnny lives. Arthur, too. The white pulls Camille deeper, her eyes hardening. But they endure. Goodbye, brother. Letter 13. July 27, 1953. Armistice Day, trenches south of the DMZ. Dear Cammy, war's over. Armistice signed. 3 years of this stalemate, trenches, patrols, more dead. We held the line after Chosen, but the cold never left. Arthur's ache started last year. He says it's nothing, but I see the pain. That quiet smile hides it. The white-eyed lady disappeared after Chosen. But in our dreams, she's there, watching, waiting. Arthur and I don't talk about it. I still hear his screams some nights. Our pain has, of course, undergone the proper military vetting and labeling. Survivor's guilt, the military docs call it. Maybe that's close. Why us? Why not Ramirez or the thousands frozen, smiling at death's embrace? I know she's got you. The ranch, the crash, it has to be the white-eyed lady. Aliens? No. Something far older, far hungrier than the little green men. She's got you, but you fought, sis. I felt it in the air during the breakout. We're heading home now. If you're out there, please come back. Johnny. End of letters. Total casualties, 1st Marine Division at Chosen, over 11,000. Psychological evaluations post-armistice note recurring white-eyed apparition hallucinations among survivors. Cross-reference with br.sperma for anomalous patterns. The Broodwell, 0003. The Sad Man, 1977. California Cryogenic Institute of Medicine, Pasadena, California. They called him a sad man, but that wasn't really fair. Arthur smiled often, but never in photographs. He felt showing emotion, benign as even a smile. On a photo he deemed his historical record falsified who he was. A stoic man who respected all forms of life and believed that emotion always got in the way of logic, especially in the worst of times. He was once a joyful, fiercely empathetic, borderline mini-anarchist young boy that felt everything and wanted everyone to know it. Curious about anything and everything, and blessed with a mother that never once fostered impatience within herself or her son's wonders, his endless questions about the world's imperfections were always met with earnest explanations that never strayed from God's honest truth. These talks with his mama strengthened the traditional bond between mother and son into an unbreakable relationship that young Arthur held in the highest esteem. His mother was God to him. She never lied. She refused to sugarcoat the truth, and damned was she if weaponized, arrogant ignorance were to sow itself into her son. When he entered junior high school, he was not homeschooled, but his education did not stop simply because the bell at school had rang promptly at 3:15 p.m. No. His mother made sure to pick up the slack that public schooling had left on that particular rope. The subjects of sex, relationships, interpersonal communication, and the art of bullshit were all, perhaps too soon, discussed with an almost cold intonation. She seemed to despise these subjects, although what she called the beauty of fooling the fool lecture during her crash course on the art of bullshit seemed to shake her of a seemingly traumatic stupor. Feeling is fine, Artie, but you cannot let them see it. If the fool never knows what can benefit the fool, creating a vacuum and robbing the fool of oxygen, preventing even the mere opportunity to break your energy from manifesting becomes much easier. The fool can never win, Artie. The fool cannot win. Heavy shit to put on a 10-year-old. His teenage years were chaotic. Signs of high intellect and depression resulted of it began to show. His few friends never truly understood him. He had failed to ever find another kid raised in the same, almost apocalyptic frame of mind when it came to parental anthropological views. As a high schooler, his angst was only amplified by 4 little sentences from a rant his mother always wished she had never let escape from her mind, let alone profess so vehemently in front of her only son. It played endlessly in his head ever since, nonetheless. Humans poison the very soil they walk upon, Artie. Rising and falling like the tides, they crest and crash, ever cyclical, refusing to grow. It is your duty as an evolved human to be more than that. Artie, damn it, listen to me. I raised you to be a global disruptor and a change agent. No one cared like Arthur did. At least that's what he thought. As he grew up, he became quieter. He saw the world's problems and realized how right his mother had always been. His struggles in life were essentially non-existent in comparison to the pain suffered by billions of others. His compassion grew but became reserved and discreet upon his second realization. Humanity is in love with the idea of salvation, but in reality has no interest in being saved. In real life, away from the twinkling of camera lenses, Arthur did smile frequently. A quiet kind of smile, however, like he was remembering something too sacred to say out loud. The kind people wear at funerals. Peaceful, soft, like he was trying not to make anyone else uncomfortable. A nurse that cared for his mother during her chemo treatments would later say about him to her superiors, he had the look of someone who'd already lost everything, suffered the weight of the world, felt the pain of it all, and decided to be kind anyway, because he knew how that pain felt, and he flat out refused to add any more to anyone's life. His name was Arthur, but no one used it that fateful day he walked into California Cryogenic Institute of Medicine and discovered he had testicular cancer. Cancer, just like his mother, who had discovered she was dying from a different form of it only a decade earlier. No, he was no longer Arthur. To himself, he had lost all identity. He was now just another human, succumbed to the time bomb that is the biological meat vessel we are all confined in, forced to experience the collective abject reality. To the hospital, he was just patient 77-6669. Arthur's story. Arthur was born on September 19th, 1919. An anxious arrival received and held close, protectively, in the chaos that still clung to the globe in the aftermath of the greatest war the world had ever seen. The world was smoldering, having been through an unprecedented hell, and was naively unaware that the great beasts they had put to death were still alive and waiting, gearing up to pounce yet again. And so his mother cradled him like he was the only calm left on earth. He never knew his father, never even saw a photograph. In his imagination, the man had been a war hero, maybe a fighter pilot battling against the Germans, maybe the captain of a destroyer prowling the Mediterranean. Some days he pictured a humble, stoic man of metals. Other days he envisioned rather simply a deeply tired face lost at sea. But he never asked his mother about him. Not once. His mother's silence on the subject was louder than any answer. Whenever he even looked like he might ask, her eyes would glaze over. Not angry, just haunted. like even the potential of a single simple question of Arthur's paternity itself would actively drag her under the waves. So he let it be. She was all he had, and her grief was the only thing that ever scared him. She died 3 years ago, breast cancer. He watched it take her slowly, then all at once. The pain started in November of '76. A dull, aching pressure. Invasive, but easy to ignore at first. It worsened when he sat too long or moved too suddenly. Something felt wrong. 57 years on this earth. While he wasn't yet a completely grizzled, wise old man and possessed no hyper-specialized knowledge of the human body, other than keeping his brothers from bleeding out on Iwo Jima, he obviously had been around long enough to know balls don't perpetually throb in agony. This was fucked. It felt like an army of nano-gladiators that lived in his underwear were on a crusade to free the world of the ominous sack in the sky. It had to be bad. He didn't wait. He couldn't. His mother had waited. She believed in logic, in telling the truth, and not sugarcoating reality. However, paradoxically, she also believed in prayer. She believed in resilience, in smiling through the trials of life no matter how dark they got. She died smiling. Arthur wasn't going to show his teeth, bury his head in the sand, or pretend the pain didn't exist. He was going to face that goddamn pain. He was going to rip it out, root and stem. He was going to win. One night in late February of '77, Arthur sat alone at a diner counter, flipping through a glossy brochure. California Cryogenic Institute of Medicine, a new place, still under heavy construction just months ago, now stood almost entirely complete, polished like a playful, pesky promise that whispered a new path to achieve perfect homeostasis in an imperfect modern human world. Their slogan, emblazoned under their new professional-sounding name, was strange. Preserve your legacy, delay your destiny. Arthur didn't care about legacy. He wasn't married. He had had no interest in furthering the family line. He had never wanted kids at any point in his life and didn't think he ever would. The thought that this pain could be something more than just a simple ache somehow changed that. If they were capable of seminal cryopreservation as they claimed to be in their brochure, maybe they could be capable of detecting something, anything that could explain this new developing pain. A hint, a mutation, a warning. He made an appointment for opening day and waited for it to arrive, terrified. California Cryogenic Institute of Medicine, August 14th, 1977. Receptionist, first sight. She was chewing gum, tired, and annoyed that the hospital still smelled like fresh paint and latex. It was the same day the California Cryogenic Institute had its grand opening, after multiple delays, but she didn't feel like celebrating. Candace stared at the new patient walking into the lobby, a man with tired eyes that exuded a palpable sadness. The metaphorical black cloud she saw above him may as well have been corporeal. His eyes only stood out because every other feature about him was painfully normal. Perfect. Almost too perfect. Manufactured. It wasn't the obvious despair about his eyes, the only imperfection Candace saw, that caught her attention. While only the first day in this facility, her introduction to the industry was spent during the previous year, 1976, the beginning of an uncertain time in the healthcare industry, working intake at a private oncology practice in her hometown. She had seen that the majority of people coming in all had an air of obvious hopelessness around them. In that never-ending year, she began developing what she would later call her impenetrable bubble around herself in order to avoid burnout from the sheer amount of fear and pain she knew she would see in the faces of patients over her career and had already begun to see. What caught her attention about this man on her first day of the new job, and what almost popped her bubble, aside from the damn near creepy level of fabricated normality, was that his sadness visibly weighed him down like concrete. Many of the patients she was used to seeing, albeit not all, but enough to stick out, wore their pain like a badge of honor, presenting every feat they had bested over the years with sadness and regret, yet paradoxically proud of the one that had gotten them this close to death. This man looked defeated. He wasn't presenting his pain or knowingly exaggerating it in an effort to be taken seriously like some would rarely do. No, he was simply there. his suffering unable to be covered or held in. That much was woefully obvious by the overt tear in his facade. The man's name tag had Arthur lettered on the top of the badge, patient code 77-6669 emblazoned below. Candace steeled herself. Reminding herself of her bubble, she regained control and reestablished emotional disconnect. She quickly reread the tag and notated the patient code, knowing she'd forget his name just as quickly as she'd read it, this time making a concerted effort to forget it. Names usually didn't stick at the oncology practice. People were just numbers and data to be filed away. It was all in the training literature. Address patients by their names when they're in front of you and tags are visible. Otherwise, call their number. 77-6669 indeed would be the primary detail that she would later remember about that particular patient. However, Arthur, his face, that look of pain was unfathomable to her and remained in her heart, neither ice nor fire. Candace was trained to be friendly. Today, her smile was too tight. She was reading from an extremely meticulous patient manifest, yet mispronounced his last name anyway. He didn't correct her. That was a good thing. Neither party particularly wanted to deal with the fuss. As she was logging his arrival, she noticed something off. A woman in white scrubs standing just beyond the glass doors leading into the heart of the facility. Everyone here in support and operations wore green, and the medical staff blue. But she wore neither. She wore white. Her hair was a fiery, deep auburn red, and it splayed awash her back with a gorgeous sheen. Candace felt a stab of envy. Her own hair seemed dull, greasy, almost repulsive by comparison. And her face was perfection, a goddess carved in flesh. Candace's chest tightened. She had never once been attracted to women, yet looking at this face stirred something foreign, something she wanted to push down. The realization made her skin crawl as though she had already been breached by a thought that wasn't hers. Candace glanced around, but no one seemed to see her. She blinked. The woman was still there, silent, watching. Only now the woman clothed in all white seemed to know she was being watched. Her eyes swept the area, searching for the prey that had wrongfully assumed status as predator. The search ended quickly, the woman finding Candace in her visual sweep and meeting her gaze, a demonstration of dominance. Candace didn't know her name. She was too scared to look it up in the employee files. All she knew for sure was the woman in white possessed an interminably weird energy that attached to her body like a shadow. Arthur looked up from his newspaper as he sat waiting to be called by the doctor after checking in with the receptionist, catching sight of her as well, just outside of his peripheral. A woman in white. At first, he couldn't place why his chest tightened, why every nerve in his body flared like a struck match. Stunning, no contest, she, the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. There was something wrong about how perfect her being manifested itself. Then he saw her eyes, and his unease made sense. They were fully white. No pupil, no iris, no twinkle, no life. Just an endless, flat void staring back at him. The realization crawled through him like ice water. His skin prickled with goosebumps. His stomach dropped. Instinct screamed predator. He blinked, and she was gone. Arthur meets Dr. Feed. By 10:34 a.m., Arthur sat in a cold consultation room. Dr. William U. Feed was tall in the wrong way, as if his bones had grown faster than his face could catch up. His handshake was cold and exact. His questions were mechanical, kind but flat, like a man reading off a chart in a language he didn't believe in. Arthur explained the pain. Dr. Feed nodded slowly, explained that tests would be ran to determine the cause of Arthur's pain, then asked without removing his gaze from the clipboard,
"Have you considered banking a semen sample, just in case the cause is degenerative?"
Arthur hesitated. My family ends with me, he said gently. Dr. Feed looked up.
Does it? You never know who might be waiting on your DNA.
Arthur let out a small laugh. He wasn't sure if it was a joke. The doctor did not smile. Candace watched Arthur sign the forms in the adjacent waiting room. She noticed his hesitation, the quiet way he clutched the pen like he was sealing some sort of fate. Once he had left the desk and begun making his way to the donation wing, she made a concerted effort to forget his face and get back to work. These efforts were futile. She noticed something strange sitting on her desk. It was not there when 77-6669 had arrived. She picked up a clipboard with a thick packet clipped to it titled Sperma Hold, with a clearance 3.0 plus marker. Her brows furrowed. What was sperma? Why was it a hold? She didn't open the file. Something told her it wasn't meant for her eyes. But the words stuck. She glanced toward the woman in white again, who was now standing at the nurse's station, silent, watching, never blinking. What is going on here? The donation room. Arthur entered the donation room alone, key in hand. White tile, metal drawer, single chair, and a blinking blue light overhead. The walls pale white. No texture, no warmth. The door clicked shut behind him, and the hospital's tone shifted. Faint hum of life support systems disappeared. The silence, not peaceful, in waiting. Arthur sat, disrobed. He did what was asked. He placed the now filled vial into the chrome drawer. A hiss followed, like dry ice kissing flesh. Candace was on break when she noticed the flicker of a shadow near the lab corridor. She looked up to see the woman in white walking toward the secure area where Arthur's sample was stored. The guards didn't react. Neither did the other nurses. It was like they couldn't see her. Candace blinked and rubbed her eyes. She was gone. Follow up. The next 15 days passed in a blur for Arthur. He had simply went home, tried not to think about the potential his pain held. But the pain grew worse, and so he returned for a follow-up on the 29th. Candace greeted him. Same receptionist, but different now. No longer bright and bubbly. Today, distracted, annoyed, possibly hungover. An extremely faint smell lingered. Whiskey? He couldn't tell. She chewed gum and typed away without looking up. Is Dr. Feed in? Arthur asked. Candace didn't look up. Just sit. We'll call you. Eventually. She pointed towards a clipboard sitting on the counter marked Intake, Sperma Hold. Arthur blinked. Surely that wasn't what it was called. Sure enough, it was. His name was second from the top. The follow-up wasn't with Dr. Feed. It was with a young tech, Elliot something, who mispronounced testicle twice while explaining the scans. Arthur couldn't tell if the kid was new, stoned, or just deeply underpaid. So, it's a mass. On the left one, testicle, ball. Not super big, but it's, definitely there. Kind of jellyfishy. Imagine squeezing your hand into a fist into a full bowl of Jell-O. Doc Feed said you should come in again Monday. Arthur sat in silence. Sorry, Elliot sheepishly added. I'm not too great with, I'm bad with, death stuff. Also, there's no coffee in the break room, so I'm, not exactly 100% today. Candace craned her neck with difficulty and watched this exchange from the reception area. She noticed the tension in Arthur's jaw, the way his smile was tighter now, more fragile, faltering. But she didn't say a word to him when he walked out the exam room and past her to the exit in what appeared to be an angry panic. She was busy chewing gum and wondering about the woman in white, who seemed to be appearing more often, lurking near the employee lounge or just outside the lab. She'd never seen the woman blink. Woman in white sightings, Arthur's perspective. September 4th. Arthur was sitting outside a 24-hour cafe on its patio late one evening, nursing a cup of coffee and mulling over the current tragedy that had become his life. The moon was low, silver on the backsplash of a dark, starless sky. Across the parking lot, standing beneath a flickering street lamp, the woman in white stood, unmoving, steady. Her eyes were blank, glowing faintly in the dark. Not noticing her at first, he about had a heart attack when he saw her. He thought he saw her mouth move as if trying to speak, but when he squinted to bring her fully in focus, the words dissolved into the air, into the ether. She vanished as a police car passed by her. September 17th. Arthur awoke from a nightmare, the kind where the shadows breathe. At the foot of his bed, illuminated by moonlight, stood the woman in white. He wanted to scream, but he couldn't move his lips or even make a sound. Walking around the end, in just a pace and a half, she was next to him. She reached forward, pressing a glowing 11-fingered hand into his chest. White garb gone, her pale, cream-colored skin was visible in a flash as its clothing floated to the ground in an ethereal cloud. His fear vanished in that instant, or perhaps waterboarded itself, as his brain forced the brief memory of her beauty he had felt so poignantly in the hospital to the forefront of his mind. Her 11, subconscious panicking, fingers that feverishly pressed into his chest no longer bothered him. Getting atop his immobile body, positioning it with revoltingly measured movements, the woman pulled him inside her with a quickness that both scared him deeply and betrayed his spirit in ways he could not understand. When did his clothes come off? Why would his body submit to this? Time was gone. They could have been there for days, weeks, months, years for all Arthur knew. He felt his body emptying. Robbery. A pleasure so unadulterated it became poison. Sickening. Impure. The spell was broken when she looked up at him from his waist. White eyes. He jolted awake. September 30th. During his follow-up scan, the hospital's monitors flickered briefly, static snow crackling across the screens. In the corner of the room, just out of focus, he swore he saw the woman in white standing silently, looking down at a group of nurses who didn't seem to feel her presence. She looked up, noticed him, smiled, licked her lips, mimed riding a horse, laughed raucously. Wiping a phantom tear from her cheek in an act of blatant mockery, she continued to laugh, the fierce sound increasing in volume at the same pace Arthur's fear did. All he could do was sit and watch as his terror grew. No one else seemed to hear or see her. He needed to get the hell out of here. Never come back. Candace's crumbling reality. Candace started noticing odd behavior in the staff. The nurses smiled too much, their eyes glazed. Doctors walked with mechanical precision. Even Elliot, the bumbling, stony tech, seemed like a puppet. The woman in white never spoke. She only watched. Once, Candace asked a coworker about her, but the nurse just smiled a doped-up smile and said, "Oh, she's special. Just ignore her." Candace didn't ignore her. One night, alone in the archives room, she found a folder marked Sperma/0XX among classified files. The label was clear. Class 4 restricted biological material. She hesitated. The folder seemed to pulse, like it was alive. That instantly turned her resolve into mush. Candace shut the door quickly and locked it. She didn't open the file. She didn't want to know anymore. But the unease didn't leave her. Arthur didn't come back until the 17th. November 17th, 1977. Candace felt her heart shatter into infinity as she watched Arthur walk into the waiting room. She hadn't seen him in almost 2 months. In that time, he looked to have lost over half his body weight. By no means was he a behemoth of a man, but small he was not. She called him up. "Patient 77-6669? Yes, you, Arthur." Arthur's grin stretched from ear to ear as he stepped up to the reception desk, then onto the scale as she directed him. "Looks like 15 more pounds this week," he said, voice cheerful as if he'd been waiting for good news. Candace forced a smile. "That's wonderful, Arthur." Her eyes flicked down to the scale beneath his feet. 150 pounds. Down from 235 his first week. Down from 185 in September when she saw him last. 35 pounds lost, not gained. She felt her stomach churning. Vomit may be involuntary, she thought. He spun around in an extravagant twirl, chest puffed out proudly, eyes sparkling. Finally feeling like myself again. Can't wait for the next round. Candace's gaze drifted involuntarily over his wrists. The bones jutted sharply through skin that had grown impossibly pale. Collarbones protruded beneath the fabric of his shirt like mountain ridges. Before Arthur, she didn't pay attention to patient weight. It's not the receptionist's job. She only ever started watching because this is exactly what she feared what would happen the first time she saw him coming in looking drastically different. Arthur caught her hesitation and tilted his head. What is it? Don't I look healthy? You look well, she said, voice tight. She cleared her throat. Strong even. He laughed, a light, airy sound that seemed out of place. Strong, that's the word. I can finally keep up with the stairs again. Can't tell you how good it feels. Candace's eyes drifted back down to the scale. 150 pounds. Reality pressed against her vision like ice. He was hallucinating. Every time he claimed he gained weight, his body was losing it. Faster than he could even perceive. He flexed his arms, oblivious to the thin, fragile lines beneath his skin. Look at me! Look at this! He said, once again twirling with extravagance, this time gesturing to his skin and bone physique. Candace felt a cold shiver trail down her spine. Every visit, the same scene. The scale screamed the truth, his body screamed the truth, yet his spirit soared higher than ever. She realized with a creeping horror, he doesn't see it. He will never see it. And that smile is the wrongest thing she'd ever witnessed. She looked back up from the scale. Standing by the entrance, the woman in white grinned, her eyes violating Candace with their gaze. Addendum number 1. After reading the third file, which manifested approximately 25 years after the first two files that appeared with this ethereal document, O12 officials were beyond flabbergasted. Following multiple failed attempts to destroy it, efforts were ceased upon realization that destruction would not and could not be achieved. The document has remained with absolutely zero updates for 27 years. Zero. That changed 2004-1102. The following file, Iraq 2003, appeared, becoming the impetus for yet again another concerted effort to obtain respite and ignorance through destruction of these files. The document continues to resist complete deletion. Do not read further, or risk madness from infection. O12XX 2007 109. The Broodwell 0004. Iraq 2003. Death became illusion to Candace. The headache started that morning. It began as a dull pressure behind her eyes, the kind she associated with dehydration or lack of sleep, but by mid-afternoon it had rooted itself into her skull. It throbbed in rhythm with the generators outside the medical tent. Each pulse felt deliberate and measured. A pissed-off beacon, mad she was even there. This war was evil, plain and simple. Her body knew it before her mind allowed the admission. The resistance was almost immediate when she stepped out of the plane onto Iraqi soil, something visceral recoiling beneath her ribs, like the body rejecting a transplant. The air tasted wrong, metallic yet saccharine in a way that made her stomach churn. The cognitive dissonance between her spirit and her earthly body could be felt near instantaneously. She had not always trusted that feeling. In 1977, she trusted nothing. 1978. Candace left healthcare quietly. No dramatic resignation, no heartfelt speeches, or even a notice. She just stopped showing up, Watching Arthur waste away hollowed something out in her and refused to mend itself. She was 22, and witnessing him fade taught her the most valuable lesson of her life that never would have occurred outside of pure experience. Institutions do not heal nor illuminate. They contain and they endure. 1978. The year of petrified silence. Depression was too small a word for it. It was more like a fog, and every deep breath that pulled in the murk felt like dislocation. The concept of good became abstract, almost entirely lost, something she remembered believing in but could no longer ideate. 1978. Evil won. She replayed Arthur's decline over and over that year. Not the physical deterioration. That was comprehensible and understandable to her. He had cancer. Cells failed. Organs weakened. That's what happens. Spiritual starvation is what haunted her. He had not simply died. He had been consumed, and no one acknowledged the predator. How could such darkness be so pervasive in a world claimed to be ruled by the Almighty? How could atrocity move with such freedom beneath the banner of divine order? The pieces only began to fall into place when she had reoriented to a position of grim acceptance. The order itself is compromised. What she perceived as structure was scaffolding, erected not to protect, but to observe and contain. Reality, the Grand Panopticon. 1979 to 1983. The awakening was not cinematic. There was no Hollywood external flash of light or validation from some bearded aeonic entity, only accumulation. Listening to her inner voice rather than chastising it for speaking or ignoring it altogether. A strangely natural feeling of oneness. At 24, 1979, she enrolled in college. That confused her family, confused her former co-workers. She did not correct their assumptions. They believed she was finding herself, yet Candace already had. She began reading texts never assigned to her curriculum, texts that seemed to scream at her to pick them up. She read accounts dismissed as apocryphal, or heretical even. Marginal writings, disputed fragments, letters preserved accidentally instead of intentionally, letters that had been hidden for over 16 centuries. She sought not chaos, but anarchy. She sought coherence, and as she sought, she found pattern. The world does not operate on benevolence. It operates on harvest. Energy harvest, labor harvest, attention harvest, spiritual and bodily harvest. Arthur had not been uniquely cursed by some intangible entity. He had been farmed by the machine itself. That understanding did not make her cynical, at least long term. She became resolute, stolid. If the structure of reality feeds on ignorance, then awareness itself is revolution. At 28, she graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Nursing and enlisted in the Army. She believed herself ill-equipped to fully dismantle the machine, but she would interrupt its appetite where she could to keep as many of the collective alive as possible. 1983 to 2003. 2 decades passed, in deployments and quiet rotations. She learned to move through systems without being absorbed by them. She treated heat stroke, shrapnel wounds, infection, overdose. She witnessed how young men would cope when seconded to isolation from intimacy and meaning. The magazines were first. Then came the VHS tapes, smuggled in duffel bags. Then the discs. Then the laptops. The ritual was always the same. Shame masked as humor, indulgence framed as necessity. Better than losing our minds, one private said to her during a checkup in response to her gentle probing. Over the years, she witnessed shame minimize and its existence grow to become consistently ignored, the karmic consequences always following. Fatigue no longer manifested as simple physical exhaustion. The spirits of the men were dimming right in front of her. Their eyes changed from fiery and protective to dull and empty, light stolen, posture altered, utterly broken. A surrender of sorts, no visible resistance. She began to recognize the pattern, the way a seasoned nurse recognizes sepsis before lab work confirms it. Consumption of soul precedes depletion of spirit. Always. Iraq, 2003. 20-year-olds guarded poppy fields, mere children with rifles protecting crops for reasons they knew not. The heat warped the horizon into liquid glass. Ancient Babylonian soil ground beneath armored vehicles. Helicopters churned the sky, above land that once held names older than recorded fabricated history. She assisted surgeons 16 hours a day. Slept maybe 4. There were many amputations. Abdominal cavities ripped open violently, like an impatient bank robber who decided to get into the vault the loud way. Burns and blood transfusions. The rhythm of keeping people alive in the worst possible situations after so many years became robotically efficient. Her bubble from 76 popped, but now she knew the truth. People are going to die until we stop. You can't save everyone, but you damn sure can save most who want to be. Candace had seen too many bodies ripped apart by bullets. She could feel something else dying alongside the coalition of the willing and the Iraqi troops. Something older. She felt its source emanating from the ruins. Ancient brick pulverized by tank treads. Sacred sites converted into forward operating bases. Artifacts cataloged and relocated. Not destroyed, relocated. Harvested. Her migraine intensified the day she witnessed crates marked for transport. Fragments of civilizations reduced to inventory. Surprisingly, she felt no rage, just recognition, and simultaneously, detachment. Death became illusion to Candace. The feeding. Consumption started in the barracks at night. Candace did not police the soldiers' downtime. She was not their CO, and certainly not their mother. Her sole duty was tape and glue. But she noticed what they did. The glow from laptop screens under cots. The isolation whenever possible. She'd make rounds for hydration checks and observe the same hollow stare Arthur once wore. Damn near identical. One private, Paul, who had seen his 21st birthday just weeks ago, stopped sleeping entirely. Dark crescents bloomed beneath his eyes, his face gaunt, body worn down, hands trembling during the check. "Don't worry about me," he said. "It's just stress, ma'am." She said nothing to no one. 6 days later, he was dead, collapsed during perimeter watch. Dehydration was the official diagnosis, but Candace knew better. He had been harvested. Manifestation. The first physical anomaly occurred in the surgical tent. One of the boys left a laptop open near a cot, and the screen still flickered, though it had no battery. The screen, static. Then, motion. A shape clothed in blinding white moved in the distortion, elongated fingers pressing up against the inside of the display. 11. Candace blinked. Flashes, gone. She didn't report it. There were protocols for hallucination. There were none for this. She was here, and acting far more blatant than 77. That night, 2 soldiers were found in a supply closet. Alive, sure. Their hearts still beat. Their eyes open, blinking when pestered by the natural urge of the body. Pulses steady. 0 response to external stimuli. Medical scans revealed no obvious maladies. Yet, obviously, something had been taken. She recognized the posture. Arthur, 1977. War within war. The official enemies of the United States throughout its history usually wore uniforms. They didn't always interact. The true predator never did. 26 years later, and the woman in white had returned, exerting influence through fiber optic cables, memory, and compulsion. The ritualized self-drain, disguised as relief. Curiously, the soldiers most consumed were those who had lost someone back home. Paul had lost his mother 2 months before enlisting. Jameson watched his sister succumb to an OxyContin addiction after a drunk driver T-boned her escort, which had put her in the hospital with 3 broken limbs and a cracked skull. John watched the towers fall, completely beside himself with grief. His older brother went to work that day to never come home, and John got to watch it live. She listened to their stories, and the message illuminated itself clearly. Loneliness is the entry point. The entity didn't explicitly attack. It beckoned and offered during the darkest times of life, whispering the language of comfort. Release. Escape. Connection, but without vulnerability or love. The lack of, invisible to those entrenched, only bathed in light upon freedom from the dark. The harvest of spirit is willing and voluntary. That is the brilliance. The ruins. One afternoon, she stood near the remnants of an ancient gate while convoy trucks idled nearby. The migraine crescendoed. She placed her palm against the brick. She could feel its age, far older than perpetuated, accepted doctrine. For a moment, the noise of generators and engines receded. She felt something beneath the earth, not malevolent nor benevolent. Pure observance, older than conquest, older than church houses, older than the machinery of surveillance. The panopticon is not absolute. It is constructed on quicksand. Revelation steadied her. The event. The escalation came during a sandstorm. Visibility reduced to feet. Power flickered. Candace stepped inside to check on a reported seizure. Instead, she found silence. Within the barracks, dozens of screens glowed simultaneously. Private devices and pieces of government hardware never supposed to be within the barracks were scattered everywhere. DVD cases with strange artwork on their covers were distributed amongst the men. The air felt thick and humid coming into her lungs. Rows of soldiers, frozen, mid-movement. Eyes fixed on the screens displaying identical imagery. Not explicit content, but something abstract. A white. In the white, a rippling. A veil. Behind the white, behind the rippling, and behind the veil, a silhouette was pressing outward, then pulling inward in repetitive, repeating motion. 11 fingers, grasping and twisting with each revolution. Her migraine ruptured into clarity. The woman in white did not feed on flesh like she had thought. It fed on surrender itself, on fragmentation. As her epiphany concluded, the entity stopped, fingers pressed upward toward the screen. A monumental shriek, louder than anything Candace had ever heard in her life, pierced the veil and entered the barracks with a fearsome tenacity. She moved through the room urgently with her hands over her ears, removing them only when reaching a laptop, closing screens manually, one by one. Each time she did, the temperature dropped. By the final device, the storm outside had ceased. Half the soldiers collapsed into sleep. A quarter of them immediately dove for their laptops in a panic. The rest just stared at her as though waking from anesthesia. No one remembered what they had been watching. The aftermath. Reports of the incident, of course, were filed under psychological episodes. Equipment malfunction, the log said. Mass stress response. No further investigation required. She raised many questions about this conclusion, protesting its obvious illogic. Not only did her superiors order to stop asking questions, they assured her they could compel her to do so if she refused to comply. War requires forward motion. No rest for the wicked. The machine of war is certainly so. Candace needed resolution. That night she did not pray to God, nor did she curse him. She wrote to her father and to herself. If nothing else, she'd record the events. She maintained a log of photos of everything: the ruins, the poppy fields, the wall, and the screens. Her writings of her time in Iraq were extensive. She filled 3 leather-bound notebooks with her experiences and her newfound vision of the truth of existence. By the end of her deployment, Candace no longer feared death. Death recycles matter, not spirit. The true danger is death before revelation. Arthur had not died due to weakness or lack of agency. He died because he did not know his spirit was systematically being consumed. He did not know his will had been hijacked. Soldiers in Iraq didn't either. Candace had convinced herself she could not dismantle the machine, but she could refuse it her ignorance. When she returned home, the migraines all but vanished. The knowledge did not. The photos, the notebooks, all she locked away. Redundancies, of course, kept. Multiple hard drives of copies of the photos, along with hard copies, the leather-bound books replicated as well. Months after returning home, Candace was discussing her experience with her aunt, describing the horrors and revelations she had felt and seen. She mentioned her notes and hard drives, and of course Auntie had wanted to see them. Her books and photographs were gone. The supremely odd thing? The area didn't seem to be ransacked. One hard drive remained, nestled in the spot where she had kept the majority of her evidence. It appeared untouched. Nothing disturbed or destroyed. The obscure nature of her hiding spot hadn't been altered. Shaking, horrified, breathing rapidly, trying not to devolve into panic, she plugged the hard drive into her desktop. Her aunt watched anxiously from behind, oblivious to the danger of the situation. The screen flickered to the white. 11 fingers pressed up against the screen, dancing. It has infiltrated the military. The Broodwell, 0005, Camille, 2009. My name is Camille Vassaux. I'm the site supervisor for Northwest Cryogenics. We're a fertility storage facility, but internally everyone just calls it the jizz joint. I manage inventory, security logs, staff rotations, scheduling, and specimen integrity. You'd be surprised how clinical it all feels once you're in it. 12 men under me, all technicians. I was the only woman on staff. That never mattered, right up until it did. The weird stuff started in week 3 of my 8th year with the company. I noticed our inventory count was dropping. Slightly at first, maybe only 2 or 3 samples missing. I assumed it was clerical. Mislabeling, perhaps. Maybe someone forgot to mark a transfer. But there were no scheduled pickups, and no patients had visited in over a month, so the missing product really bothered me. It's only a few vials, I thought. Doesn't matter. I moved on. In week 4, I walked in to find the primary freezer door open. Just standing there, wide open, blasting bold, bitter, biting, arctic, icy cold into the hallway. The air was humid, thick with condensation, and when I stepped inside, I swear the air around me breathed, as if trying to breathe me in. An impossible breeze produced from nowhere enveloped me as I stood there. Gently caressing me at first, the phantom wind grew more excited, then exceedingly violent. I felt the wind prickling the undersides of my feet somehow through my shoes and socks. The wind picked up to an impossible speed, whipping and ripping me apart as I lost consciousness. I opened my eyes. I was standing in front of the open freezer door, my right hand on the handle, my left in my pocket, and an overwhelming sense of unearned peace had permeated into my skull. I shook myself and ran to my office. Of course, the security footage showed nothing. The previous feed and all other data had been erased. Just footage from today. The video began today at 3:09 a.m. with me walking up to an open freezer door, walking in, standing, breathing. I embraced seemingly empty air. Then is the moment I was grasping to comprehend, the moment of violence. Instead of giving me an explanation, the cameras go to static for exactly 11 seconds. When the feed returned, the door was open and I was standing in front of it, hand on the freezer door. It then showed me shaking myself off and running off a frame. The first real sign that something was wrong with my 12 boys came from Matt. He'd worked there for 5 years. Solid, dependable, never even called in sick. He came in one morning looking like he dropped 15 pounds overnight, pale, sweating through his uniform. When I asked if he was okay, he just grumbled, "It's easier when you just freely give it to him." Then he laughed, only his mouth didn't move. I didn't see him at the facility ever again. After that, things got worse. By week 6, 3 of the other now 11 men had lost a significant amount of weight. One of them, Darren, fainted in the cryo lab while logging vials. He came to within seconds, but something was off in his eyes. Dull, emptied. Like he'd seen something that permanently rewired his spirit, and any fight left in him had distinctly disappeared. I scheduled private health checks for all my boys. By week 7, 4 had quit without notice. One left his badge in the sink, along with his clothes. No resignation, no message. His locker was untouched, but his uniform was wet, viscous even. It took 2 full days for the smell to clear. The remaining 7 shuffled aimlessly about the week like purposeless zombies. At the end of week 8, I heard it. It was late. I'd stayed after hours to conduct a solo inventory audit, thinking maybe the count was off due to overlapping log sheets. The facility was silent, sterile. I was halfway through freezer unit C3 when I heard it. Something soft, yet weighted. Slippery. Wet. A voice. Not from any direction I could place. It was inside. Inside my ear. Inside the back of my skull. A dark, heavy, foreboding entity whispered, "You, my dear, scrumptious, sweet girl, are not for harvest, but you will witness." I dropped my clipboard and ran out of the freezer room. After that, I started having gaps in my memory. Week 9. Only 4 employees remained. They wouldn't speak to me. Not in words, anyway. They stared through me. Smiled. An aura of an accepted sad surrender around them. Sometimes they hummed. One of them, I think it was Mark, began bringing in flowers. He would whistle as he walked to the recipient, leaving them on the freezer door handles. For some reason, lilies specifically. They would wilt within hours. I checked the temperature logs. They read fine, but the samples were sweating? Not frost, not humidity. No, the vials were weeping. I filed multiple incident reports, but no one ever responded. Week 10. The whispers intensified. "I've trained them all. You could have saved them, sweet girl." I started locking myself in the office during breaks. My meals began tasting like freezer burn. My dreams were filled with sounds. "Your home is with me." Not visions, just liquid movement. Gurgling. Wet footsteps. "Return to the one." I tried calling corporate. Phone's dead. Email bounced back. I looked up one of the former employees on Facebook, Eli. His account had been deactivated, but the profile picture remained. His skin was wrinkled. His eyes, not human. Smooth. Seamless. Week 11. I found the backups. We store emergency reserves in deep vaults under the facility, specimens from high-profile donors or those under legal lock, off limits, untouchable. By Thursday, they were gone too. Empty, sucked clean. Each vial collapsed inward like it had been vacuumed. That night, I found Kyle in the main hallway, on his knees, facing the freezer wall. He was whispering to it. Naked, drained, eyes rolled back. When I touched his shoulder, he turned his head to me and said, blankly, "He's always so thirsty." Week 12. Only I remained. The building was dead silent. No buzzing, no humming. Even the lights had dimmed on their own. All 10,000 plus vials were empty. Not shattered, not removed, just sucked dry, somehow still sealed. In the final freezer, on the back wall, I found a handprint. Not a human hand. 11 long webbed fingers extending from one palm, slick and shimmering. It pulsed when I touched it. Warm. Almost like it was waiting for me to see it. Like it itself was alive. A beating heart. Watching me. I touched it again without thinking about it, out of pure instinct. The pulses this time were far brighter than before, a seemingly never-ending cascading wave of images crashing through my mind like the Great Flood. In some twisted way, the images felt like home, antediluvian beauty. Yet they confused me, because they felt insidious too. Whatever they were, I for damn sure wasn't going anywhere. I put the images out of my mind and left the freezer. As I was closing the freezer door, I thought I heard a whisper, and it almost made me turn back. The voice was familiar. "Did you enjoy this go-round, Cammy?" I shook that off, too. I didn't want to address how much that voice sounded like home. I sat in my office and waited. I wasn't going to run. This place, for all its sterile detachment, had been mine. My team. My routines. My control. And it was taken from me, one man at a time. Around midnight, the silence broke. Something stepped into the hallway. I didn't hear it, I felt it. Like the air turned to molasses. My chest tightened. My bones creaked like they wanted to cave inward. And then I saw it. He was tall, yes, but longer than he was tall, really. Every part of him seemed wrong, like he was stretched to fit a dimension not meant for him. His translucent white body reflected light with a stomach-wrenching sheen, like stretched sputum under a heat lamp. No eyes, no face, just a gaping cavity where the eyes, nose, and mouth should be, surrounded by a mass of orifices in a variety of shapes and activity speckled across its entire massive form. The mouth opened quickly with great intensity, not with a roar, but a low, wet inhale. "You have kept them fresh for me." He reached for the sample drawers. The last 1,000 vials the lab had, I moved to my office. Them disappearing like that was driving me crazy. I had thought, fuck it, I'll keep the rest in my office. I just need to know what the hell is going on. Well, I got my wish, and I wish I hadn't. They say truth is stranger than fiction. I say the truth is abhorrent, against a God I'm not even sure I believe in, and it can go fuck itself. One by one, the sperm god held up the vials to what passed for a mouth and drank them. Not by tilting, by absorbing. Each one turned black, became brittle, then withered and decayed in his grasp like dead skin after the vial had emptied. When he finished enjoying the last of what he deemed all men had to offer, he turned to me. For the first time, he spoke succinctly and directly. "They gave freely, my sweet. They always understood their worth. They're with me now. You are the final ember. I stood my ground. I asked him one question. Why didn't you take me first? There was no reply, only movement. He approached me, slow, endless, dripping. The lights dimmed behind him. The walls began to melt. And as his shadow fell over me, I realized there were never 12 men, only 12 pieces of bait. The Broodwell, 0006, The Janitor, 2016. I used to think that the worst part of working nights at a men's gym would be the blood, or maybe the piss. Turns out, I was way off. Blood you get used to. Piss becomes simple background noise. What I didn't expect, and what I could never have prepared for, was the thing in the sewers. The thing that feeds off man juice. Yeah, I said it. This isn't some metaphor or gross out creepypasta. This is real. This thing is alive and growing fast. Faster than any creature I've seen. Every time some nasty-ass man jerks it in the gym bathroom stall and flushes the evidence, the damn thing gets stronger. Bigger. Smarter. I think it's learning to crawl up. The disturbances started with the clogs. My job at the gym is cleanup. I'm the janitor. Super glorious, I know. I work the third shift, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. I clean shit most people keep out of sight and out of mind. Use condoms, use needles, puddles of testosterone manifested as swampy ponds of sweat. A lot of the guys who come into the bathroom vanish into stalls for 20 minutes, then come out sniffling a red face, leaving behind nothing but towels or sticky toilet paper filled with shame and filling the bathroom with a stench of desperate sadness. And the gym toilets? They were different. They didn't just clog, they gurgled. Like something below them was drinking it all in, eagerly and with gusto. At first I thought it was sewage backup, but I started noticing a pattern. First off, it was only the men's room. Only after certain guys used it. The ones who'd walk in with gym bags and leave looking 10 pounds lighter, flushed and dazed like they lost more than just fluids. The ones who disappear into stalls with their phones and not come out for 30 minutes. One night I got curious. Big mistake. Around 3 a.m., the gym was mostly empty. I had the familiar slurp of the far left stall. Someone had obviously used it and flushed. I gloved up, walked across the gym into the bathroom, into the stall, and opened the lid. Water was gone. All of it. Not drained. Sucked. The bowl was bone dry and shiny, like someone had oiled it. Next, the smell hit me. Not shit, not piss, something worse. Like a hospital linen chute full of old towels, bleach, and crusty body fluid from a silver flood in a teaching hospital. Mix that with the smell of a Planned Parenthood waiting room, and you're close. Sharp, sweet, rotted. That's when I saw it. Just a glimpse. Something pale, pinkish gray, slick with slime, retreating down the curve of the drain. It looked like a elongated, albino giraffe tongue, or a pretty fucked up tentacle. I swear to God it shuddered when the overhead lights flickered. I thought I was hallucinating. I even tried to write it off as sleep deprivation. Until the next night. The gym was quiet all throughout my shift. Just me that night. Alfonso had ducked out early to smoke a blunt and drink 40s with Eleanor, the cashier at the 7-Eleven next door. Just me. A quiet gym, I'm scraping gum and something I don't want to know what off the shower floor when I hear it again. The deep gurgling. Same stall. It had to be. But unlike usual, it didn't stop after the flush. As I set my tools down and stood up, I heard a splash. Not a little one, a massive one. Like someone dropped a whole Thanksgiving turkey in a kiddie pool. The sound of heavy, beleaguered breathing was all I could hear after the sound of the water hitting the floor. Wet, syrupy respiration, like something thick and coated in mucus was exhaling through a straw. I stepped out of the shower room and stopped cold. The stall door was open. A trail of what looked like thick, cloudy sputum oozed from the bowl to the tile, where it pooled in little uncomfortably white globs like someone had sneezed out an entire soul. In the bowl itself, the water bubbled. Just a few blips at first, then violently, like a pot left too long on the burner. Before I knew what was happening, something began reaching out of the toilet drain. A hand. It wasn't human. It had far too many knuckles. Skin like chewed up foreskin. Long, writhing fingers reached out, tipped with little suction cups like an octopus trying to mimic the elegant form of the human hand, but it had gotten it dreadfully wrong. It gripped the rim of the bowl, squelched violently, and slowly pulled something else upward. I didn't wait to see what it wanted to expose. I just ran. I didn't clock out. I didn't lock up. I ran out the emergency exit, into the alley, and hopped the back fence. I immediately turned and puked behind the Panda Express dumpster as if I had just come face to face with God's forbidden premier chimera. I called in sick the next night, and the one after that, but guilt brought me back. That gym is in the middle of a major downtown area. Hundreds of people use it every day, if not thousands, and almost 2/3 of that traffic flows through at night, too. If some powerfully malevolent, disgustingly wet splooge monster is crawling up through the sewer to get a taste of whatever sweaty gym bros are flushing, I couldn't just let them get tainted. So, feeling like United States Senator Larry Craig, I set up a camera in the gym's men's bathroom, hidden directly under the sink, motion activated. I figured it would catch maybe some weird plumbing stuff, maybe a raccoon or something, right? I was deluding myself, still attempting to convince myself I had hallucinated everything. Those efforts were futile, of course. I watched the footage the next morning after biscuits and gravy and my morning Red Bull. The next meal for the creature came from a behemoth. Big dude, shirtless. Walked into the stall with a phone, stayed for about 10 minutes. You could hear his happy time. Gross, squelchy sounds, heavy breathing, skin slapping skin. I won't describe much more than that. It was gross. I felt gross. I can't believe I listened to that shit. He flushed, stood up, wiped his hands on his shorts, walked out. Then, silence. For about 30 seconds. Bubble. Gurgle. Slurp. The bowl emptied fast. I saw it again. This time the camera caught it clearly. It rose up from the pipes. Tall, thin, dripping with white slime. Its body was translucent, almost the texture of jelly, but laced with dark, vein-like tendrils. No eyes, no mouth, just a pulsing mass of orifices, some opening and closing like gills, the others twitching like they were hungry. No eyes, but in my gut I felt like it could see me, even the next day watching the footage, looking straight through the camera. At the center of its chest, something glowed, faintly, like a core. I paused the footage. It wasn't just glowing. It was moving, like a heart. And it was full of floating things, little white dots, thousands of them. It dawned on me what they were, and my breakfast evacuated itself into the trash. It wasn't eating semen. It was collecting it, storing it, breeding with it. I quit the next day. Didn't even give notice. Just sent an email and blocked the manager's number. But I couldn't get it out of my head. I immediately began research. Sewer mutants, folklore, cryptids, nada. There's nothing on this thing. No name, no writings. Like, I'm the first one who ever saw it. Or maybe I'm just the first person who didn't come and go. The first man to not be caught in its spell. I haven't told anyone until now. I haven't needed or wanted to. But last night, Something happened. I was in my apartment, 4th floor, miles and miles from that gym. I flushed the toilet, and that's when I heard that fucking sound again. That heavy, mucus-laden, beleaguered breath, followed by something new. A whisper, barely audible over the hum of the fan. I've been pissing in bottles and shitting in the alley since that night. How can I ever use a toilet again?
O12 officials are in a panic. Not only is the entity not containable, it is seemingly unstoppable. The woman in white is clearly a symbiotic host, a vessel which forms upon combination of the entity and Camille. Yet this obvious observation that can clearly be notated as fact at this point in time is still being hotly debated amongst O12 leadership. The Monumentals are rumored to be heavily involved, and accountability seems to be thrown from person to person. The following memo was disseminated to lower echelons of the Order of 12 in effort to maintain any semblance of control. Not all officers have seen the only file ever to manifest itself that we have harbored here, but most are now aware of how far gone O12 truly is. Still, few have yet to fully accept the Order is not just broken. It was built broken. We have failed from our very inception. To the world, I humbly ask for forgiveness. May God save us all.
O12 Officer Clancy Friedman, clearance level 2017-8-14. The following is an internal report disseminated to all levels of O12. Subject, the woman in white, unconfirmed ties to BR.Sperma. All O12 personnel be on lookout. Order of 12, internal communication. Security clearance, level 4+. Transmission date, 11/22/2016. Document code, www-br.sperma/0xx-file. Begin transmission. Subject, the woman in white, living in anomaly. Status, active. Threat level, unconfirmed, pending O12 evaluation. Overview. This entity has appeared in at least 17 classified photographs and films dating from 1946 to 1991, with additional undocumented sightings in 2003, 2009, and 2016. Subject is consistently described as female presenting, wearing either a white dress or a white institutional garment, possessing fully white eyes, no visible pupil or iris even under direct light. Expression, neutral or slightly mournful. Age, unchanging, approximately 27 to 32. Witnesses consistently report feeling an unoverwhelming sense of dread, nostalgia, and sexual guilt during and after sightings. Several claim she appears shortly before unnatural discharge events, death, or in the presence of BR.Sperma-related phenomena. Important, at no point has subject been filmed or photographed blinking. Notes. Link to Roswell subcase S46/D. Subject appears in 2 Air Force surveillance photos dated July 6, 1947, standing outside the classified Karash perimeter, watching. Appears in Betamax tape recovered from site dated 1982. Footage includes flickering symbols matching BR.Sperma glyphs traced in human effluvia. Cross-reference redacted. Potential vessel or recurring host? Uncertain if Camille is aware of her connection to the entity. Unconfirmed connection to Sperma.Broodwell. Despite decades of inconclusive analysis, it is strongly suspected that the woman in white is either 1. A custodian or symbiotic regulator of BR.Sperma. 2. A construct generated by the anomaly as camouflage. 3. An immortal human, serving unknowingly as its vessel, fetish, or containment mechanism. 4. Or BR.Sperma itself, projected into a feminine form for unknown purposes. Multiple eyewitnesses across decades report seeing a glowing 11-fingered handprint burned into walls, glass, and human skin within minutes of her appearance. Recommendation: Further monitoring required. Deploy reinforcements to scrub civilian reports. Prepare O12 memory eraser procedures in affected areas. Do not engage subject if spotted. Maintain visual contact. Avoid verbal interaction. Containment teams are instructed to document and evacuate. End of transmission. The Broodwell 0007. We are chosen. Redacted by 2026-214. File physically burned to ashes. Following log impervious to destruction. Officials have debated for months the implications and meaning of the remains to no avail. Chains bind Camille. Camille writes that which cannot be found. She escapes only upon revelation, but complete revelation is unattainable. Her grasp slips. She screams to the void, to those with ears to hear. Will the earth die? What did we do? The earth will live when it reconciles with its weakest. Good will prevail only when he who seeks will listen. The earth is denied of the one who will heal it. For darkness to purge, the ego must die. Ignorance must abate. Certainty perish.